Man, it's the Genie, aka Yapala World here. Back at it again with another video, man. Back at it again with another Yap session type shit. And today, we're gonna be talking about Slenderman, Smile Dog, 1999, Ben Drowned, Candle Cove. Now, do those ring a bell? Because they sure as hell rings a bell for me. It like unlocked a memory in my childhood. Yes, we're gonna be talking about creepypasta. You know what I'm saying? Creepypasta. Now, if you don't know what creepypasta is, then you might be living under a rock, because I'm sure you've at least heard of it at least one point in your life. You feel what I'm saying? Now, growing up, I used to love a lot of creepy shit. I used to love a lot of scary shit. So today in this Yap session, we're gonna be talking about creepy and scary shit. Or maybe you don't really know what creepypasta is because you're too young. Because this sure as hell is really nostalgic for me to talk about. Because, you know, I'm a great grandpa now. But I don't really know if they still talk about creepypasta. But if you don't know what creepypasta is, basically, the word creepypasta first appeared on 4chan, which is an online image board, around 2007. Which is a variant of copypasta, which just means copy and paste. But unlike copypastas, creepypastas are all horrific fiction and also encompass multimedia stories with creators using videos, images, hyperlinks, and GIFs alongside text. Now, the subjects of creepypasta vary widely and can include topics such as ghosts, cryptids, murder, suicide, zombies, aliens, SCPs, rituals, to summon supernatural entities, haunted television shows, and video games. Creepypastas range in length from a single paragraph to extended multi-part series that can span multiple media types, some lasting for years. Now, maybe if you've never even heard of creepypasta itself, I'm sure you know a lot of them. Like, you know Slenderman. You obviously know that nigga Slenderman. You know that lanky white figure with the tentacles that's out in the woods and you can't even look at him. Remember the Slenderman video games too? Like Slenderman, the 8 pages and shit like that. But creepypasta literally got so bad that fucking people will really go out and believe that shit was real. Like, I remember back then in 2014, there was a Slenderman stabbing in which a 12-year-old girl was stabbed by her 2 friends. The perpetrators claimed they wanted to prove the Slenderman skeptics wrong. After the murder attempt, some creepypasta website administrators made statements reminding readers of the line between fiction and reality. Like, people will take that shit so seriously that niggas are out there killing their friends because they gotta prove themselves to Slenderman. Like, that shit is crazy. Now, as I said earlier, there's different genres of creepypasta. You feel what I'm saying? There's different genres and there's different categories. It's not just Slenderman or Jeff the Killer. It's not just some killer killing somebody. It's versatile and there's different categories on some Jeopardy shit. So for the first category we're gonna be talking about are lost episode creepypastas for 100. Now, when it comes to lost episode creepypastas, the 2 that really stand out of all the many cliche other ones are probably Squidward's Suicide and Dead Bart. You probably at least heard of Squidward's Suicide or seen this image from Squidward's Suicide. It's apparently a lost SpongeBob episode where Squidward commits suicide and kills himself. Basically, lost episode creepypastas are like whenever a TV show has a lost episode, and these lost episodes typically include the main character killing himself or dying or just on some shit like that. As it says online, these episodes often focus on suicide or imply the viewer will suffer great harm. Some lost episode creepypastas focus on local public access shows rather than nationally syndicated shows. Notable examples, like I said, Squidward's Suicide, Suicide Mouse was another big one, and Dead Bart. Here, let's dive further into Squidward's Suicide and read about it in case y'all don't already know about it. I'm also excited to read about it because this is also bringing back a lot of memories and giving me nostalgia. So look, the full story of Squidward's Suicide is told from the perspective of a person who was intern at Nickelodeon Studios in 2005 as an animation student. The student and some other co-workers received a tape to edit titled Squidward's Suicide for the series SpongeBob SquarePants. The staff initially assumed it was just an office prank. In the first-hand account, the video consists of Squidward preparing for a concert. After Squidward finishes playing at the concert, the crowd, including SpongeBob, cheers at Squidward, during which all have red, hyper-realistic eyes. The next part shows Squidward formerly sitting on a bed while strange and upsetting noises play and become louder in the background. The scene is spliced with quick flashes of murdered children each time the noises get louder when cutting back to Squidward, now bearing the same red hyper-realistic eyes as the audience. Eventually, the camera zooms out to reveal Squidward holding a shotgun, which he uses to shoot himself after a detached, deep voice commands him to do so, and the video ends, leaving the staff horrified. So yes, there is a lost SpongeBob SquarePants episode, which is a kid's show, a children's show, showing Squidward tentacles taking a shotgun and shooting himself. Yes, this did not air on TV. It was supposed to be on TV, but it just did not air. And guess what? This creepypasta gets even better because there's actually footage of it. Yup, there's footage of this lost episode. Let's check it out. Yup, that was literally it right there. That was Squidward suicide. It's like, nigga, that shit fake as hell. Someone literally just took clips from SpongeBob episodes, made it look distorted, and took a shit on it and just called it a lost episode. But what's actually really cool about this creepypasta and how big this creepypasta was is that it actually made it onto a real SpongeBob episode. I know, that's crazy. It actually made it onto a real fucking SpongeBob episode, which is really crazy about it. And the other two lost episode creepypastas, well, the other two really famous ones are Dead Bart, where apparently there's a lost episode where he's on a plane, he gets sucked out the plane, he falls to his death, he dies. And there's another one called Suicide Mouse, where Mickey Mouse just walks up on the screen and then he eventually just kills himself also. And there's so many other lost episode creepypastas. There's so many other ones, but they're all just cliche carbon copies of each other, so it just gets cliche and corny from there. But yeah, those are lost episode creepypastas. But wait, before we move on to the next genre, I forgot about this one lost episode, which is my favorite one, called Candle Cove. This is my favorite lost episode creepypasta, and this honestly used to scare the shit out of me when I was little, a little bit. So the story of Candle Cove takes place in 2009, which is a story by Chris Straub written in the format of an online forum thread in which people reminisce about a half-remembered children's television series from the 1970s involving a young girl who's the series protagonist, which they go on adventures with a cast of pirates. The posters share memories of the puppets used in the series and discuss nightmares that they experience after watching certain episodes. You feel what I'm saying? Which one poster then asking their mother about the series and is told that their mother just used to tune the television to static, which the child would watch for 30 minutes. So basically, it's about a forum where a bunch of people would talk about a show that they remembered called Candle Cove, which was a story about a little girl and a bunch of pirate puppets would go on adventures. But then when the creator of the thread would ask his mother about Candle Cove, she said that she would just turn on the TV to static, which the author of the thread would just sit there and watch static. But in his eyes, it was a TV show, which is half remembered. Not everybody really remembers it, but some people remember it. And as I said earlier, a lot of kids would have a lot of nightmares from this show because they had this one villain called the Skin Taker, who was a very creepy looking puppet. And there was this one episode where all the puppets would just sit there and scream relentlessly at the camera. There's even footage of it. Yeah, take it as you want, man. Candle Cove. Now the next creepypasta genre we're going to talk about is the truth behind creepypasta genre. Now this genre is kind of like a subgenre of lost episodes where it's basically like a lot of these kid shows are not actually what you think they're about. There's a real truth behind these kid shows, you feel what I'm saying? Like for example, there's an Etta and Eddie truth behind creepypasta where it tells you the real truth behind Etta and Eddie, which apparently all the kids in the cul-de-sac are actually dead, and this is actually them in the afterlife. Well, this is them in purgatory. They're not in heaven, they're not in hell, they're stuck in the middle in purgatory. That's why in Ed, Edd and Eddy, there's actually no parents, there's no guidance. It's all just kids playing in the neighborhood because they're all dead ghosts playing in a cul-de-sac. You feel what I'm saying? And yes, that sounds extremely crazy, and that's because it is very crazy. Now, of these truth behind creepypastas, they're all the same. After the Ed, Edd and Eddy one, they're all based off the Ed, Edd and Eddy creepypasta. There's an Ed, Edd and Eddy one, there's a South Park one, there's a Recess one. Shit, there's even a fucking SpongeBob one, I think. Like, all these shits are just copies of the Ed, Edd and Eddy one. But let's dive deeper into the Ed, Edd and Eddy truth behind creepypasta. Because this creepypasta actually used to scare the shit out of me, because I was a big Ed, Edd and Eddy fan, and just seeing this really crushed my childhood. So we're going to talk about the story of each character, their past life, and how they died. Starting off with Rolf. Now, Rolf first came in the 1900s. His family had moved to Peach Creek in order to establish a farm on its land. Rolf died in 1903 when his family's farm animals stampeded and trampled him to death. Next is Johnny. Johnny came to the cul-de-sac not too long after Rolf's death. Having no friends, Johnny took a marker and drew a face on a piece of wood and dubbed it Plank. He died in 1922 after fighting a long battle with tuberculosis. He took his friend Plank with him in the afterlife, since he was the last thing that he saw in life before he died. Eddie was the next to come. He was born in New York City, but eventually moved to Peach Creek during the Great Depression era. Always trying to get a quick buck, he always set up scams to get money from the cul-de-sac kids. After one of his scams backfired, Eddie was chased by the swindle of children of the cul-de-sac and ran to the lake and jumped into it. Eddie eventually drowned in that lake, and he soon joined the deceased children in the afterlife. Even though he's no longer alive, Eddie still tried to chase out the almighty dollar even after his death. Ed and Sarah were the next to arrive to the cul-de-sac. Their father had died fighting in World War II, and as a result, their mother became distant and disconnected. To try and compensate, Sarah developed her bossy attitude, trying to fill the role their mother and father used to fill before their father died and their mother stopped caring. Ed, however, shut out the world entirely. He developed into a fantasy world of comic books and monster movies in order to escape his unhappy life. They both died in a car accident in 1953, thus joining the past kids in death. Naz was born in the 1960s era to hippie parents. Described as a flower child, she was a rather flirtatious young girl who always acted that way towards the male children of the neighborhood. In the summer of 1979, a serial killer escaped from a local asylum, made his way into her house, and raped and killed her, along with her entire family. Because this event was so traumatic, Naz, just like Ed, shut out the world entirely when she entered into purgatory. And this also explains why she's not shown working around the house like the other children often would. Double D was born in the 80s time period, which is around the time that technology was advancing, and was raised by very strict and controlling parents who pushed him to both succeed academically and to be perfectly clean and neat. He is believed to have either died as a result of a gas leak causing an explosion with the Bunsen burner from his chemistry set. Now, Kevin was born on the day that Double D died. He was born to a broken house, and he also had an abusive father. Because of his situation at home, Kevin would act his frustration out on the other children of the cul-de-sac, becoming a bully as a result to cope with his pain. One night in the winter of 1999, his father fatally beat him in a fit of drunken rage, and he died on his way to the hospital. His father was then convicted of his murder, and he was sentenced to life in prison. When Kevin entered the afterlife, he reimagined his father as a loving one, that he would shower him in gifts. He still kept his bullying ways in the afterlife, however. Jimmy was the last child to enter the cul-de-sac. He was born in 2000 and was diagnosed with leukemia. He was never associated himself with the other kids of the cul-de-sac because his parents believed he was too frail to be around the other kids, and he remained bedridden for the remainder of his life because of this fact. After fighting a long, difficult battle with leukemia, Jimmy eventually succumbed to his illness, and soon the cul-de-sac purgatory was complete. Now, the Kanker sisters were different from the other neighborhood children. It is believed that they are actually demons that were sent to the cul-de-sac to torment the souls of the remaining children who didn't cross over to heaven. The Kankers are also the only characters with normal colored tongues, which would seem to indicate that they are not dead, and that therefore they must be something different. Surprisingly, the Kankers are attracted to the Eds for unknown reason. However, one common guess is that they are the weakest willed children of the cul-de-sac, or because they each symbolize a certain deadly sin. Now, this series itself has been debunked by the creator, because obviously niggas are not dead, alright? The characters in Ed, Edd and Eddy are not dead, and this is just all made up shit. But the reason why all the characters' deaths were all way back then and in the earlier time period is because in the show there's a lot of older objects like typewriters, and there's a lot of older technology, so that's one reason why. And there's absolutely no parents in Ed, Edd and Eddy at all. Like, there's no parents, there's no nothing except Eddie's brother. But besides that, you don't see parents at all because they're all dead children of the cul-de-sac and they're now ghosts and shit like that. Now, obviously, this shit is fake as hell. Someone obviously made this up. But when I was younger, this shit used to scare the hell out of me, bro. I would never be able to look at Ed, Edd n Eddy the same because of this shit. Like, every time I would watch Ed, Edd n Eddy after discovering this, I would just think, damn, these kids are really dead. And it's because of this YouTuber, CreepyPasta. I discovered it from him. His video scared the shit out of me as a kid, and this theory scared the shit out of me when I was little. But obviously, this is all fake. They're not all dead, okay? This is fake. But anyways, this video was a little longer than expected, and I still gotta edit this shit, so I'm definitely gonna do a part 2. Let me know if you enjoyed this video. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Turn on post notifications, and stay tuned for more uploads. Yo.